Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something really complex. Think about it, building a life for, almost 3 decades? Kids, jobs, taxes paid, all while technically being under a temporary status. That's the situation for thousands from Honduras and Nicaragua. We're looking at the Trump administration's decision to end their temporary protected status, TPS. And the numbers here are significant. Around 72,000 people from Honduras, another 4,000 from Nicaragua directly affected.
Yeah, it's crucial to understand what TPS actually is. It's essentially a humanitarian protection. Allows people from certain countries to live and, importantly, work legally in the U.S. Without the immediate fear of being deported. This happens when their home countries are facing really serious problems. Think armed conflict, major natural disasters, things like that, conditions that make it unsafe to return. And key point is for folks already in the U.S. when that designation happens.
Right. So if it's meant to be temporary, how did people from Honduras and Nicaragua end up under TPS for, nearly 30 years? What kicked it all off?
You have to go back to 1999. That's when both countries got the TPS designation. It was right after Hurricane Mitch. And Mitch wasn't just, a bad storm. It was a Category 5 monster. It basically flattened infrastructure, wrecked health systems, economies. Returning safely was just, it was pretty much impossible for a long time. So the U.S. granted TPS to give them time, essentially, for their countries to recover from that massive level of destruction.
Okay, so fast forward almost 27 years, and the administration's view then was, things have recovered enough, the original reason is gone.
That's exactly the reasoning they put forward. The then Secretary of Homeland Security stated that the conditions caused by Mitch specifically were considered resolved. The core argument was, look, PPS was always meant to be short-term, temporary. And based on that original disaster, these individuals, they argued they no longer met the criteria.
This really throws a spotlight on that inherent tension, doesn't it? You have this temporary label, but it gets applied for decades because maybe the conditions don't just magically fix themselves quickly. And we've seen this across different administrations, right? Both Republicans and Democrats have used TPS. But there's definitely been pushback, particularly from some Republicans, arguing these long renewals go beyond what TPS was designed for.
And that leads to the next big point. What actually happens on the ground when you try to end a status people have lived under for so long? It's really interesting because ending TPS designations, it almost always sparks lawsuits. Individuals, advocacy groups, they often take it to court. Their argument is often, okay, maybe the original disaster's impact lessened, but maybe there are new problems or ongoing issues that still make return unsafe. And you see courts getting involved. They sometimes challenge the government's whole definition of recovery. Because, after decades, people have built lives, paid taxes, integrated into communities. Uprooting them isn't simple. And courts have sometimes stepped in, put temporary halts on ending TPS precisely because of these complexities and the potential impact. It creates a lot of legal uncertainty for everyone involved.
So when you're listening to this, what's the takeaway? I mean, it really shows how messy policy can get. You have a short-term humanitarian idea, but it runs headlong into the long-term human reality for tens of thousands of people. It's a stark reminder that temporary can become, pretty permanent in people's actual lives, making them part of the fabric of our communities.
Exactly. And maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. It pushes us to ask what recovery really means after a huge disaster. Is it just about rebuilding roads and buildings? Or is it also about the social and economic stability needed for people to actually return safely and sustainably? It forces us as a society to grapple with balancing the original intent of aid with the very real, often multi-generational lives people build when they find safety and opportunity here. How do we navigate that?